degenerates? It's halftime of TNF. You know what that means. This is Over Underdogs, the show where we pick player props on Underdog Fantasies PickEm. If you want to play along with us, use promo code Nonsense for a nice little bonus. As per usual, I'm your host, Mason Cameron, at PFF_Mace on Twitter. And with me, as always, my partner in crime, Vishaal Gupta, at Vishaal_Gupta95 on Twitter. V, how are you doing tonight? Are you staying warm? Is it as cold where you are as it is where I am? I woke up this morning and it was negative 12 degrees. Absolutely insane. I hope you're staying warm
not
out
below
in the desert.
zero. Yeah, definitely not below zero out here. So definitely not as cold. Sucks for you guys. Sucks for the guys in the Midwest waking up to that stuff. Tough. Yeah, very tough. Sorry for you guys.
It has been absolutely miserable. But at least we have, a half interesting game. I mean, it's not really that good, but I kind of like watching the nonsense happen when they try to play football out in the rain. It's just further proof where whenever I get enough drinks in me, I will just, say the most, crazy takes that I have to anybody that'll listen. And one of them is that moving forward, every single NFL stadium needs to have a roof, needs to be a dome or something. I am so tired. I'm so tired of the weather. I'm so tired of it.
Honestly.
I don't want to see it anymore. And here in Denver, it gets cold, V. It gets cold. You guys have a dome out there, out in the desert. We don't have a dome here, and it gets cold. It gets cold out here, V. We don't like it.
It looks so much fun on TV, though.
True. I get second-hand cold sometimes watching it really cold on TV, but anyway. And back again with us tonight. We missed you last week, Vaughn. It is IN betting writer and props master Vaughn Moore at VMoore1724. How are you doing tonight, Vaughn?
What up, guys? Missed last weekend because I was in Chicago. Still hungover, frankly. I still haven't recovered. This weekend it's just going to be another round, and then the following weekend's New Year's. So this is going to be a rough 3-week stretch for me. This is definitely the most difficult part of my schedule. But yeah, I dodged a bullet though because of what we were just talking about, the snowstorm. I'm pretty sure it hit like right over Chicago, right?
I think so.
It's going to be hitting this weekend.
Yeah. So glad I got out of that, but yeah, just ready for a good Christmas.
Yeah, and my birthday is actually the 29th, so I know all about that whole week-long hangover type thing because it starts with tons of eggnog on Christmas Eve, and then it goes all the way through, and I'm drinking on a Wednesday for my birthday usually, and then on to, New Year's Eve weekend. So I'm right there with you. I feel for you. But tonight, we're going to be making some money, and of course, with us also here, Pedrito, my friend. Oh, it didn't open. Why didn't it link? It always does this to me. Hold on.
Man.
There we go. Wilson is bad enough without a wet ball. We do agree. We were trying to tell that to Vaughn right before we went live. Pedrito. We're happy to have you here. So first order of business, as always, is we have to go through our records. And I would rather not do it this week because I have had quite a plummet in recent weeks. I have not hit a pick in 2 weeks. So you guys can go ahead and fade me heavy, but definitely you're still going to want to get on V and you're still going to want to get on Vaughn because their picks are killer. Last week, Ben saved us because he had a couple of nice picks. But of course, what else is saving us is that we play all of our cards with Underdogs PickEm Insurance. Anybody that doesn't know, PickEm Insurance is a great way to hedge your entry. When you turn insurance on, your potential payouts, they do get reduced slightly, but you can still win money even if you miss a pick, and we love that. And that's how we're hitting as many cards every week as we were. We would be absolutely down, horrendous without PickEm Insurance right now. V, you are still killing it with a solid 9 wins with insurance, and we're going to make it a nice 10 tonight. What do you say, my friend?
Absolutely. Let's get it.
Absolutely. So we got V's card here. V, why don't you run everybody through what you're highlighting tonight?
All right. Let's start with Geno Smith, higher than 1.5 passing touchdowns. He has hit 2+ passing touchdowns in 11 out of 14 games this season. 2 of the times where he didn't get at least 2 touchdowns were both times against the San Francisco 49ers. So every time he plays a team other than the Niners, he's been hitting this number except for one time. Now he's going to be playing against a Kansas City secondary that has been terrible this year. They have allowed the most passing touchdowns in the league at a whopping 30 this season, and the Chiefs have allowed the second highest passer rating to opposing quarterbacks. They're just not very good at pass defense. A lot of that is because I think they get big leads and then they allow teams to, they play soft coverage when they're up by so much. And that could happen again this week. The Chiefs are 10-point favorites, so it could be a lot of blowout garbage time for the Seahawks offense. And we'll take it. All of it counts at the end of the day. Whether he gets it all in the first half or he gets it last second of the fourth quarter, he should have no trouble hitting higher than 1.5 passing touchdowns in Kansas City. Next up, Kareem Hunt, lower than 40.5 total yards. It has been a brutal season for Kareem Hunt, who played very well, with Cleveland as the number 2 guy. He was one of the best RB2s in the game. He was getting plenty of touches and doing a lot with it in recent years, but this year has just completely plummeted his touches and his efficiency. He has gone lower than this number in 3 of his last 4 games, and he has less than 10 touches in 5 of his last 6 games. He is just not getting the ball, whether it's in the passing game or in the rushing game. It's all going to Nick Chubb, and he's just been totally canceled out. Other factor in this game is the terrible weather that's forecasted for this one. They're saying it's probably going to be like 14 degrees with 20 to 30 mile per hour winds. And the total on this game has dropped all the way down to 32.5. It's like one of the lowest numbers we've had in years. It's just not going to be a good game for any offensive player. I wouldn't pick anybody. I would try to avoid everybody in fantasy. There's just not going to be very much offense. There's not going to be any room to throw. There's not going to be any room to run. It's going to be a very, very low scoring defensive slog. So definitely like the lower 40.5 total yards for Kareem Hunt. And then lastly, have to take it. This one was kind of a gimme. Derrick Henry higher than 0.5 rushing touchdowns. If you can believe it, he has scored 2+ rushing touchdowns in 4 straight games against the Houston Texans. He absolutely dominates this team, and they just can't do anything about it. No matter what they try, he is going to get into the end zone through the ground when he plays the Houston Texans. The Texans are terrible again this year against the rush. They've allowed the most rushing yards per game, and they are tied for the second most rushing touchdowns allowed this season at 19. This is going to be terrible, terrible, terrible. Even with Malik Willis under center, that's what happened last time these two teams met earlier in the season. Malik Willis had like 50 passing yards, but they still blew out the Texans, mainly because Derrick Henry went off. Should be the same story this week. Unfortunately for me, I'm playing him in a semifinal game. It's going to be a bloodbath, but he's definitely going to get in the end zone at least once, probably even twice. So got to get higher than 0.5 rushing touchdowns for King Henry.
Yeah, Derrick Henry's Christmas card is him and all of his sons on the Houston Texans defense there. So I love to see it too. Most Henry managers in fantasy probably didn't make it to the championship or even to the playoffs like I did because that team was definitely shot in the foot pretty early anyway. But we continue to move on here. And Vaughn, you have another great card for us. You've been killing it. You have been on fire. Why don't you walk us through what you're highlighting this week?
All right, so I'll start at the top. Saquon Barkley, higher than 0.5 rushing and receiving touchdowns. I'll start by talking about Minnesota's defense right now. I know Minnesota's defense had a great second half against the Colts offense last week, but, I mean, come on. That Colts offense was an abomination with Jonathan Taylor. Without him, they were just downright depressing to watch. And they were given, and in the first half, they were given so many opportunities by just inept special teams and disastrous plays by the Vikings. In the second half, they had nothing, and the Vikings were able to run up the score. So I'm not impressed at all with their defense. Their defense has let up at least 30 points in 5 of their last 6 games, which is more representative of where they are right now. I'd have to imagine their motivation is going to be low for this game considering they just locked up the division, which was probably their goal before the season. Saquads has had a touchdown in 5 of his last 7 games, and this will be arguably the worst defense he has faced in that stretch. For my second pick, I'm going to go J.K. Dobbins higher than 56.5 rushing yards. The past 2 weeks, I've bet the higher on Dobbins rushing yards prop, and I will continue to do that this week. He reached over 100 yards in both of the games he's played since he got back from injury, averaging 8 yards per carry in week 14 and 9.6 yards per carry in week 15. He appears to finally be healthy and will still be without Lamar for another week to take yards away from him. For my third pick, I am going Andy Dalton higher than 141.5 passing yards. I literally borrowed my dad's glasses to check if I was reading this right. The Red Rifle has thrown for more than 150 yards in all 11 games he has played in this season. What makes Underdog Fantasy think that he's going to fail to reach that number against the Browns of all teams, who have merely the 14th ranked pass defense in the league? Fine, but still kind of middle of the road. I know Dalton has no receivers probably that you've ever heard of this week, especially with Olave and Landry out. But in today's NFL, even a below-average starting QB should reach this number against an average pass defense like the Browns.
Yeah, that's one of those ones that you just have to hope that he can get, in between the gusts.
Raheed Shaheed, on a deep one.
Yeah. The weather is a huge factor, but you're right. That's one of those type of games that you have to pick and choose your moments, and they're going to be conservative, but then at times they can dial up a play because windy games and weather games are kind of crazy. We'll see exactly how it works out, just like V had highlighted previously. But anyway, on to my picks for the night. And I have a nice little card here that I am extremely interested in seeing how this plays out. For starters, we are taking Jared Goff higher than 247.5 pass yards. The Lions have quickly become everybody's favorite team. They're playing out of their minds offensively, and a lot of that credit has to go to our guy, Jack Kavanaugh. No, I'm just kidding. It has to go to Jared Goff, and he is playing with confidence, with rhythm, and in the month of December, he's averaging over 307 yards per game, with 6 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He's the 7th highest graded passer per our friends over at Pro Football Focus. That is among guys like Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, and right above Jalen Hurts. This week they have Carolina, and I know that the Panthers have a reputation of being an elite defense this season, but they've dipped considerably in recent weeks, even if the box score doesn't seem to indicate that. Truth be told, they've only allowed one quarterback to surpass this projection in the last 6 games, and that was our guy, Geno Smith. But in the last 3, or in the last 3 as well, they've only allowed 195 passing yards on average. But my stipulation here is that that's largely propped up by matchups with less formidable offenses like Pittsburgh and Denver. The advanced analytics paint a bit of a different story with this team. Over the last 3, Carolina ranks 29th in EPA per dropback, 21st in dropback success rate. Goff should have no trouble finding his guys in holes in this zone and taking advantage of it. I can't wait to see it for sure. I love watching this Lions team play. They are so exciting. The second player on our list here we have is Miles Sanders, higher than 6.5 receiving yards. And whenever you see a single-digit projection like this for a starting back in the league, it warrants some sort of attention. And that's kind of why I have 2 here. I get that the weather is going to play a factor in some of these games. Not necessarily this one because it's played in Dallas in the Dome. But I understand that on the surface, when you look at the receiving totals for Sanders, it may look like a decent projection as he's only surpassed this projection 5 times this season. And as well, the Cowboys allow the 3rd fewest receiving yards to backs, but it's more or less ignores Sanders' recent trends. in the situation at hand with this offense. In the last 4 games, Sanders has exceeded this number 3 times. Additionally, as I'm sure everybody's heard by now, the Eagles will be rolling with our guy, Bubba Gardner Minshew, under center. Minshew has made 2 starts in the last 2 seasons. Generally, that lack of recent game experience should lead to a more conservative game plan, a more conservative approach from him, which should include plenty of checkdowns and screens to both Sanders and Gainwell. Not that it means much this far down the road, but in a single game that Sanders and Minshew played together last season, Sanders had 3 catches on 3 targets for 22 yards. I like the higher here at 6.5 pretty easily. And now this one is not only my lock because Underdog decided to use the best player photo out there with the big hat, Brian Robinson, but the number is obscenely low. We're looking at Brian Robinson higher than 3.5 receiving yards. This one is sort of in the same vein as the Sanders pick, but it's kind of a better situation. But also, you got to love the hat, and I can't not lock it up. I understand that Robinson doesn't get a ton of the passing down work, but 3.5 is just too low for how he's played recently. He surpassed his projection in each of the last 3 games. Taylor Heineke looks for his backs often, and the San Francisco D may be a top unit, but they've struggled a bit recently holding down backs in the pass game. They rank in the middle of the league in receiving yards allowed to backs. And they've allowed 4 backs to exceed 20 yards receiving in the last 3 games. They've had a pair of backs do it twice. I think that Brian Robinson is definitely right there to get 3.5. You could fall forward for 3.5. Like that's gotta hit right there. But anyway, so I don't have a locks graphic, and I will tell you why. And that is because every time I think that we have a mole in our group chat that sends Underdogs our picks, because V will send me his picks, and then I swear they come off the board. And V's lock is actually one that came off the board almost immediately after we locked it up. So V, why don't you go ahead and tell everybody what you're locking up this week?
Yeah, gonna go right back to the top here and lock up Geno Smith higher than 1.5 passing touchdowns. Again, when he's not playing the San Francisco 49ers, he has hit 2+ passing touchdowns in all but 1 game this year, going up against a Kansas City defense that's allowed the most passing touchdowns in the league this year and the 2nd highest passer rating. Should be an easy lock this week for Geno Smith.
Geno's the real deal. And so for anybody that's out there shopping, definitely go shop around for that one. Wait and see if Underdog's going to bring that one back for us. 1.5 passing touchdowns. That's the one you're keeping an eye out for. And Vaughn, why don't you go ahead and show everybody what you're locking up this week?
All right. So I'm going to go on a little detour because you reminded me about the weather in the Midwest, and I did not take that into account. I just looked it up during the game. Windy conditions and snow showers, areas of blowing snow, high of 14 degrees, winds at 25 to 35 miles an hour. You look, his nickname might be the Red Rifle, but I don't know if it's going to work in that type of wind. So I'm going to go with the Dobbins higher than 56.5 rushing yards. Just because, he's playing in a dome and Tyler Huntley kind of stinks. And I'm assuming they're going to keep giving him the ball because he's just been great over the past couple of weeks ever since he got healthy.
And I mean, they're playing like a JV squad. They have a JV squad right now. Me and V talked about that a bit last week on Locked In, that it's like this team is a defense and they're a JV offense, and it's tough for them to get things going right now. They're lucky to have J.K. Dobbins back. I'm right there with you. And for anybody, don't worry about missing out on one of Vaughn's picks. Vaughn has tons of picks, and you can get those right at importantnonsense.com. Every single week he drops the player props article that has tons of value in there. Go check it out. You're definitely going to want to see it. And for myself right here, I will wrap it up as quickly as I can. I am going to be taking Brian Robinson higher than 3.5 receiving yards. I get that San Francisco's a great defense, but this is just an obscenely low number that we have got to take advantage of. And you love to see low numbers, don't we? Especially when we take the hires. So anyway, that does it for us. And that wraps it up. We're back same time next week. So everybody check it out. Come hit us up in the Discord. You can get all of our picks there. Our friend Pedrito in the comments is definitely there too. He's been cashing winners, and that has been paying for his subscription into our Patreon, and that's how you get in there. So it's essentially been a net positive for him. Locked in tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern. You're not going to want to miss it. We're going to be going over all of our picks for the games this week. You're going to want to be there because there's lots of weather going on, and you're going to want to get the lowdown on that. Again, check everybody's work over at importantnonsense.com. That's where you get Vaughn's piece on player props. That's where you get me and V's piece, the best piece in the market, NFL versus, where we go head to head every single week, and we'll hash a little bit of that out tomorrow. And shop.importantnonsense.com, promo code LOCK to get all of your Christmas collection of the IN merch. You're definitely going to want to get there. And that about does it. So, V, any parting words for the people?
Catch us tomorrow for the long show. Should be a good one. And enjoy watching Trevor Lawrence continue to dominate Zach Wilson tonight. Not even close.
The biggest difference between a 1 and 2 we have seen in years. And Vaughn, do you have any parting words for the people, and maybe any parting words for Zach Wilson himself?
Well, damn, Evan Ingram's good. Wow, watch this game. Wow. He's already over 100 yards. That's crazy. Yeah, this game has not been entertaining so far. I mean, especially because I got the Titans winning the division before the season as part of my divisional parlay. They're the last team as part of it, so I'm thinking maybe I should just cash it out now and save myself the embarrassment because the Jaguars are playing great. But other than that, look, good luck for this weekend and look at the weather report. Look at the weather report.
That's right.
Bets, because that's what I should have done before the Dalton pick, and now I might get an L there. But
that's okay. No, that's why we lock these up. That's why we circle, round table these things out so that everybody has all the good picks, and now we know. But definitely, and good night to you, Pedrito. It was good to talk to you. We'll see you in the Discord. And until next time, everybody, good night. Good luck.